This is the one about the
Well,
surplus, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad I finally got it out with a date that wasn't June on it, but it's still not early enough for me. I'm really upset with Department of Administration.
Right.
I wanted to get this out sometime. I actually wanted March the 30th as the date for its release, and I'm going to push for it next year. I have them on a short leash and telling them they have to have a Gantt chart to be ready to make sure that we can get this thing out. But their financial management information system is just a wreck. And right now, I'm reviewing the compliance report that I should be issuing. We haven't gotten the final yet. I've gotten the second draft. We should be issuing it next week. And in it, they talk about the fact that the financial management system really needs to be addressed and overhauled,
Right. Yeah,
and the number of personnel
that's kind of like
over
what
there.
when Mr. Byrne was on, actually just within the past hour, he was hinting about this report that's coming out of your office and stressing the need for this brand new financial management system because of all of the money that we've gotten recently in federal assistance. So it's interesting to hear that. Is there anything else that you can tell us? Because you say it's a wreck. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, the system is so antiquated, and they did not renew their maintenance contract with the company that they had on contract for the last 30 years. And consequently, they weren't able to close the books for 2019. So the external auditors kept having to make sure that all the numbers matched up, that the starting and the ending numbers were right. And it took accounting acrobatics, literally, to be able to get everything to where Deloitte was willing to sign off on it, that it was acceptable, because every numbers kept coming back in from 19 when we were in 20. And so they need a new system. But I will, at this point, also make it known that, and I think I've said it in the past, I do not, I repeat, do not support it being purchased by emergency procurement. I mean, you've had sufficient time and notice that this is a problem. Do an IFB with a full procurement record, so that this is done properly.
Right, and that whole emergency procurement. It's a situation that was signed and that was allowable through an executive order months ago. I want to say I can't
Yeah, it
remember.
was in the December 22nd executive order, but it's just it really I have real problems with it. I know
Mm-hmm.
that they disagree with me. They want to use, I don't know what kind of system they're planning on. I mean, procurement rules are going to follow, but I'm insistent that it really should follow the regular procurement law. They've had sufficient time, and they could have and should have done it. Um, I don't want to have a messy procurement appeal because of it. I don't need it. We have enough work here with the other audits that we're doing. And so I'm hoping that they comply with the law so that there is no challenge to it.
Mm-hmm. How could
Because there is, yeah, it's, you don't need to invite problems by not following the rules as they're
mhm.
set.
Right.
How concerning is it?
And
How
go
concern?
ahead.
How concerning is it for you that the way that this procurement is being handled for this new FMS,
Mm.
that it cuts out the chief procurement officer
Yeah.
who typically is tasked with handling
procurement.
Procurement.
I don't know what they're doing up at Department of Administration, because I keep looking, I keep waiting to see the invitation to bid in the news published in the newspaper. I keep hoping that I'm not hoping against hope to see it done properly. I've made my view clear, but we'll see how they handle it. I know they disagree with me. But I'm insistent that, or at least I want to make it known that I am not supportive of this process. That it should be comply with the procurement laws as it's written.
What do you make of this argument that it's a state of emergency, but the current financial management system that we're using, they're still able to complete all the tasks that they have to every day? Well,
I don't understand how they could justify it that way. I don't agree with it. I think that's probably the should be the end of the discussion. I don't know how I can't rationalize it to be any other way. So, but we'll see what happens. In the meantime, my office is trying to get the compliance report and the management letter out, and I think hopefully that everybody will read the compliance report when it comes out. It not only makes mention of that, but it makes mention of a number of other things. There are about over a dozen findings.
What are the juicy ones?
Report.
Discuss.
And almost each one of them you would be interested in. Oh. So when we do release it, I would highly recommend that someone go through it, because it does have some interesting information in it.
Is this going to be like a port compliance report?
Yeah, the compliance report, yeah. It has numerous findings that the external auditor disagrees that this, finds that this expenditure is inappropriate or this procedure is inappropriate. And so that's what's in the compliance report.
And then you fold in the responses.
It's probably the most important thing to read rather than the financial audit.
Yeah, thanks.
When these things get released, read the MD&A in the audit, because you're not going to make sense of the numbers anyway, because you don't have there's no way that you can question the numbers. The calculators that they have in the computer make the numbers come out right, so you don't know whether or not what numbers they put in is correct. But the MD&A explains what's happened in the department, what's happened throughout the government during the previous fiscal year. And then the compliance report goes through it and really it samples certain things. It's not a full audit of every single thing that was in the financial audit, but it does sample things. Sometimes just a week or just a dozen purchases, but it questions it, and so I would hope that management and the public takes the time to read it so they understand what the problems are.
Coming out because the suspense is killing me.
We're also going to be releasing the single audit, which is the external auditor's review of how the government has spent the federal funds that were sent to it.
Right.
And so both of those documents should be coming out next week. I'm waiting for the final. We would have released it if we had the final, but I guess we'll wait until next week, hoping for the final.
BJ, during the most recent session, there was a bill that was passed to change sole source and emergency procurement reporting periods from an annual to a monthly basis. It's just waiting for the governor to act on it. But how helpful is that in getting this report monthly for your office?
Well, I mean, by the time it comes out with the end of the month, it's already done. Um, because, but I'm going to have to check with my ASO. Every month I sign a letter to the speaker of all of my sole source purchases. And there's been a law in the books for a monthly reporting of those small purchases. Maybe it's just the small purchases, which is the only thing that we can do near sole source. But at least you can go through it and you can see, why on two very almost consecutive dates were there two small purchases just under the limit, or three for the same thing with the same vendor. It's obvious that it was being split so they can get under the wire.
Right.
And so someone's going to have to take the time to go through that, to look at all of that, and you'll see some of that discussion in the compliance report also, because they did a sampling of that. So, but we also are in the midst of doing our performance audits. I had hoped that this week that the COVID hotel audit was going to be released, but on Tuesday afternoon, on the 1st, I had agreed to allow the government Adelaide to additional time to respond, and they responded. And on Monday, I got a 22-page rebuttal letter and 3 volumes of documents for the procurement record, which we should have already received months and months ago, when it should not be found now. I mean, so we're having to put that back into the record and look at it and see if that changes the conclusions and recommendations that we initially came up with. Now that we have all this information, but the procurement record was a mess. I want to tell all the agencies the procurement record has to be updated on a daily basis. I mean, as you email someone, you should make sure that a copy of it goes into the procurement record, so that when there is an appeal, you don't have to wait 6 months to try to find all of the emails of all the discussions that you had regarding that procurement. But they don't, and it takes a long time, and some of the cases are lost because of that. That the procurement record isn't complete, and consequently, the department loses the procurement appeal on it. And so, I really do wish that they would be a little more diligent in doing that. So I'm hoping to release that soon, as the news has been reporting, because the vice speaker and our oversight chair has requested. We're also doing a performance audit on whether or not the government is adequately collecting the taxes from the military buildup contracts, and that's going to be a very substantial audit. And we're all reading stuff. I just got another document yesterday on that I'm trying to read about where we might be able to find all the contracts and how many years we should be looking back to see whether or not it was provided. And from it, I think I've come up with a way that we can collect it. And so I'm hoping that when we do the finish, I can be able to share that with everybody.
Oh, yeah.
We're also, for the third time, in 4 years an audit on the cigarette tax. I know Reverend Tax is like, why again? Well, the reason for that is that I was provided with a copy of one of the distributors' payment receipt for one of the previous months. And when I compared it to the CRER report of how much was collected for that month in cigarette taxes, that one distributor's payment was 103% of what that month reported. So consequently, I'm going to have to go back 30 months at least and check each one of those months to see whether or not it's being adequately reported by Revenue and Taxation, or whether it's possible that one distributor is accounting for 103% of the collection. And I have others that have come to see me who are claiming that they're also paying a huge percentage, and it's impossible to be able to tell. So for the third time, this office is going to do an audit of the cigarette tax collection and the liquor tax collection. It was in our plan to do the liquor tax, but I've added the cigarette tax on top of it so that it's going to do both, because there's obviously a leakage. And yesterday's newspaper, I guess you guys didn't cover it, there was some report yesterday in some other media that reported that there's a suit a whistleblower suit at the district court regarding non-payment of legal taxes. And so we're going to have to look at that.
Well, while we're on this subject, let me just ask you.
We're doing the expenditures on the COVID. We're finishing up our mayor's council. And so we're quite busy.
Yeah.
And I'm busy juggling, reading different kinds of things and trying to push things along.
Well, on the cigarette tax stamp thing, let me just ask you your 2 cents on this law here that was passed, and that Reverend Tax, this is the privatization of the cigarette stamp tax collection, where the AG's office had responded in court that the government of Guam simply couldn't afford to pay a private company upwards of $17 million to collect these tobacco taxes. And we had Senator Sabina Perez on, who said that paying a private company would take money away from cancer patients, cancer treatment, cancer education and awareness. So what's your
Which is the reason why I oppose it. And it's ludicrous. I'm sorry. The last audit that this office issued on cigarette tax, which was the second audit, but with first audit while I was here, my recommendation was just repeal the bonded warehouse and collect the tax at the port. When it lands, just look at the bill of lading or manifest, whatever you call it, however many cases of cigarettes is in there, collect the $2,000 per case, and then now it'll be on the distributors to be meticulous about all the documentation proving the fact that they sent out X number of cases to export to one of the outer islands, and you can show that bill of lading and the fact that some ship went out on a certain day, and you can prove that. They'll be able to prove that. You can prove they can be the ones that prove that they've sold some to the military, or that they've destroyed X number of cases. And then that way, the Revenue and Taxation doesn't have to keep count of that. All they will do is receive that information from the distributor, give them a credit, either refund the amount that was previously paid from the payment at the port, or hold it as credit until for your next shipment. As I tried to explain to one of the distributors yesterday, if you bring in 1,000 cases, you just pay the $2 million that's owed on that straight up at the port, and then as you do an export, you get a credit, or you get refund from revenue and taxation for however many cases were shipped off, or however many cases you send down to the military base. But you make all those, you take care of that, and you prove that to revenue and taxation. If revenue and taxation doesn't give you a refund, then the next shipment that comes in, you have a credit there. Just take it as a credit on the amount that's that you would have or is due from your newest shipment. But I am not in favor of paying a commission to any outside agency to do this. I really do think that after review of the situation, that the easiest and the most equitable way is to just collect it at the port immediately upon landing. I know that's going to put out a number of distributors are going to, it's going to have cost them some money but if they're going to bring in the cigarettes and they can afford the additional amount, then I'm not very sympathetic to smokers. So.
All right. So you're just saying it'd be easier to do it down at the port, but what's the remedy for this $17 million price tag?
I have no idea, which is the reason why I'm doing this third audit. Because at first I thought that we were only losing, we were maybe missing 14 million, but now I'm not sure. When that one distributor gave me a copy of his his stamped receipt from revenue and taxation for one of the previous months, and it was 103%. I said, that's impossible. Something's happening. Either revenue and taxation is not reporting it correctly, because this payment was made on the 15th of the month, and the CRER comes out the 20th of the following month. So there was enough time to record whatever it was that they paid on the 15th of that month for it to be reported on the next month's CRER. How could it be underreported? It doesn't make sense to me. And so I'm going to be doing a really in-depth investigation on what's happening up there and how they're doing this. Because if I paid $2,000, $2 million today, and next month it shows that the collection was only 1.8 or 1.5, how's that possible? Something's happening somewhere, and I aim to get to the bottom of it.
All right, well, keep us posted. Thank you for your time, public auditor.
Thank you.
And we'll catch up with you maybe later on towards the end of Pride Month, because I see you're wearing your Pride shirt this morning. Pink flamingos. Right on. Okay, BJ.
Thank you.
That's that. Right on. 9/11. Let's keep it in the KUAM News Zoom room and go to Catherine Castro, the Guam Chamber of Commerce. Thanks.